Tears froze on Nora's cheeks as she fled. Men threw pitchforks and stones. She, in the back, took these blows upon herself. Better her than her relatively fragile brother and knight. Taryn and Carl ran ahead of her. She stumbled, and the crowd behind her cheered. She couldn't see. Her tears had frozen, her eyes shut. The year and a month had allowed her to forget on occasion, to forget her guilt. But that small child, choked on the ashes that had been his mother, he'd been so small, so delicate. The love in his mother's face as she stroked her belly. A horror had been inflicted upon Nora greater than when she had her guts spilled across the floor. It was the second most horrible thing she'd ever done. Rough hands hefted her out of the snow. She shrieked and lashed out. "I got you, Nora. Don't worry, I got you." It was Taryn. "Put these on," said Carl. Weights were placed on her feet. They rose quickly over a small, steep slope. The shouts shrank into the distance as they fled over the snow. Nora rubbed the ice out of her eyes, blinking through tears. She saw that they wore snowshoes. They came into the woods. Few of the city dwellers chased them on skis or shoes of their own. Bodies burned as the fleeing knight and squires tired. Lanterns spread light for the men. Before the vampire hunters appeared a downed tree in a small clearing. It was massive in girth. A pair of glowing eyes appeared above it. Carl put a hand up, and the three pulled to a stop. They panted heavily, yet still the three drew blades. Taryn and Carl seemed hardly affected by the tragedy of that night, but it set Nora shaking. What horrible thing would she cause now? The locals caught up, but they halted a dozen yards away. The red eyes glanced over the score of local men. The men shifted back. The thing in the dark moved. A shadow just beyond the light eclipsed. Man after man. It moved with near inhuman speed. Screams rose, flesh tore. One of the locals scrambled toward the vampire hunters, only for a massive axe to impact his back and drag him back into the dark, screaming. A large man emerged from the shadows. The darkness seemed to hang on him as if it was part of his cloak. A black bear fur combined with monstrous shoulders. The man was hulking in a way no other was. His black beard was plaited, and his long black hair hung in shockingly neat lines. A grin stretched across his cruel face. Huge arms crossed over a thick, heavily dented breastplate. "Little more trouble than you could handle, dear?" He stared into Nora's eyes. Her eyes were wide, a wild fury in them. "Tears!" she screamed. She burst forward, shattering her legs. Hair and dress fluttered as she slammed her blade down on him. He shifted slightly. The blade tugged hard on his neck. It cleanly cut through. Not a drop of blood fell as he rose again. The blade had done nothing to him. "You wound up too much and overswung," he said as he slammed a boot into the blade. It was wrenched from Nora's hands, and she was sent hurtling back with a punch. These motions had all been performed with such impeccable timing that she had no recourse to address them. Taryn was already coming from Tyr's left, and Carl from his right. Taryn swung at the giant's eyes as Carl half-sworded in an attempt to thrust up the man's guts to hit his heart behind the breastplate. The man ignored Taryn's blow, batting the knights aside with a twisted piece of ancient steel. The sword, if that was what it had been once, was long, crude, and thick. Carl moved his sword aside so Tyrs' sword swept through open air. He then shifted his hand position and sunk the blade into the man's guts. Tyrs leapt back. The blade failed to reach his spine. No, the vampire chided, as Taryn and Nora came in for blows. I am here merely to check on one of my favorite investments. Though, seeing who chases the hunters, little Laura is dead. I had such hopes for her and her husband. His eyes glinted as Carl fainted twice in a row, but it seemed that he knew what blow was to come, and he dodged the true strike when it came for his spine. Tyrs took a blow from Taryn on his arm. The long blade was stuck. With a twist, the ancient Viking wrenched Taryn's sword away. Tyrs seemed utterly uninterested in fighting Nora or Taryn with a weapon, yet every blow and strike from Carl had his attention. Oh, you are a masterpiece. Jesus Christ has worked wondrous sorceries on you. But you still need practice. The Viking caught the knight's sword in one hand. And strength. Nora intercepted the fist destined for Carl's guts. She softened the blow, but both she and he were thrown away from the Norseman. Alas, my gods have given me both. Carl! Taryn cried and rushed over to the knight, as Nora leapt at Tyrs, snarling, Die, pagan! The sound was sickening. The way it crunched, the way it squished. Nora's head was caved in by a blow that carried all the bestial weight and unholy strength of both vampires. Tyrs' fist dripped with blood. He waited. Then his eyes lightened as Nora rose. So fast, Nora, so quick. Truly you and this master of yours shall forge an unstoppable pair. Nora darted at Tyrs, but he leapt aside. The powerful leap brought him to Carl. A swift kick sent Taryn hurtling away. He slammed into a tree and slumped into the snow. Tyrs, then, with the same foot, gleefully stomped down. A loud snap. Carl cried out. His leg shattered. Tyrs whirled as Nora reached him. Her blade slammed into his breastplate, forcing him to take a step back and throwing her away from him. Now, Nora, think. If you want to survive, if you want your dear knight to survive. He swung his sword. Nora moved to parry, but the sword danced around hers. The cruel edge took her head off. Tyrs kicked it. The body fell limp. The head plunged into the snow. It started to roll. The snow before it compacted, and it slowed. Tyrs loomed above Carl. The knight looked up, half conscious. The Viking knelt down. There is only one choice, little vampire hunter. The huge man held a palm full of his own blood. Drink to live, drink to seek vengeance. Or do I have to kill your little squires too? Carl spat in Tyrs' face. The vampire sighed and rose. He took a step in Taryn's direction. A steely grip clamped on his ankle. He looked down. The knight had many of his ribs broken. One of his legs. Blood flecked his lips. Fine, you bastard! Tyrs knelt and lowered his hand to Carl. The knight paled, grimaced, then drank.